So we're diving into something really powerful today. A listener sent in this story. It's about his dad passing away right at the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic. And, it's deeply personal, obviously, but there's something about it. It's just so universal, too.
Yeah, it's easy to get lost, I think, in the enormity of something like a global pandemic, right?
Yeah.
But when you boil it down, this is a story about a family. It's about love. It's about sacrifice.
It really is. And the story starts, it's 2020, peak COVID, right? Hospitals are overwhelmed. Everyone's scared. Nobody really knows what's going on. In the middle of all that, this listener, the son, he's able to visit his dad. His dad's in the isolation ward. I mean, just picturing that, the protective gear, the glass.
Yeah, heaviest stuff.
It really is. So what struck you when you first read that part about the son finally seeing his father?
Well, I mean, he's there, the son. He can see his dad. Finally, right. But there's this distance. It's physical, obviously, with all the barriers and everything, but it's sort of emotional too, and it highlights how even when everything's going crazy, like gloatally crazy, it's still that human element, that connection that really matters.
It's true. And you feel the weight of that when the son describes his father, he's struggling to breathe. He's hooked up to all these machines. And you'd expect, I don't know about you, but I'd expect him to be scared for himself, right?
Okay.
To be clinging to his son for comfort.
But he doesn't.
He doesn't. And that's where I think this story, that's where it takes that really powerful turn,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because instead of asking for anything for himself, the father, he just looks at his son and says, and I'm reading this directly from the letter here.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "Why did you come here? It's dangerous. Go back. Take care of yourself."
Wow.
Yeah. It gets me every time. It's heartbreaking, definitely. But it's more than that. It's like you're seeing this raw, pure love, There's no filter.
It's that pure paternal instinct.
Yeah.
To protect.
Exactly. Even potentially facing death, this father, his first thought is for his son. It really makes you think about the depth of that love, how strong it must be to overcome everything else.
And for the son, those weren't just words, were they? It was like a window into his father's soul. It's tragic, obviously, the situation, but there's something beautiful about that clarity,
There really is.
Yeah.
And it stays with him because, tragically, the father, he does get worse. He ends up in the ICU on a ventilator and he passes away.
It's just, God, those words, they take on a whole new meaning knowing that, it makes you wonder if maybe we all have these moments, these things people say, maybe just in passing. They don't mean much at the time, but then...
And later.
Yeah. Later, they take on this whole other meaning. It makes me think about, all the times I wish I had said, I love you more, or really told people how much they meant to me,
We've all been there, I think. It's one of those things this story really brings home. Don't wait, Appreciate the people you care about while you can. It's interesting, though, because the son, he talks about how, those weren't just empty words, from his dad. It wasn't coming from a place of fear or anything. It was just like pure instinct, that need to protect.
It's like those words, they cut through everything else that was going on. The illness, the fear, the fact that they both knew probably that, time was running out. And in that moment, the son, he really gets it.
He does. He says that he understood fatherhood totally differently after that. It wasn't about, some big display or even saying I love you all the time. It was about this deep devotion to your child's well-being, putting their needs first no matter what.
And it makes you think about, all of the different ways that fathers show that love, often without even realizing it, the little sacrifices they make, the way they support you, even when you mess up. It's that constant belief, I think, that belief in their kids no matter what.
That's it. Showing up, being present, even when it's hard.
Yeah.
It's about, setting an example.
Yeah.
Strength, resilience. Those are the things that really stick with you.
And you can tell, reading this letter, that it really stuck with him. This idea of carrying that with him, that legacy, that it's not about, stuff or money. It's about embodying that love, that instinct to protect.
Exactly. Honoring that memory, trying to live up to those values, even when it's, even when it's hard or you're tired or whatever, I think the son even mentions how he finds himself saying those same things now to his friends, to people he loves. Be careful. Take care of yourself.
Wow. That's powerful. It's like it's in his DNA now.
It really is. The way he moves through the world, the way he treats people, it's like it goes beyond words now.
It really does. And God, the story, it makes me think about we talk a lot about the sacrifices mothers make, and obviously those are incredible. But this story, I don't know, it highlights something about fathers too.
It does. I don't know, maybe we don't always talk about it as much. The depth of a father's love. I don't know, maybe it's just quieter sometimes, less obvious.
Less obvious, but just as important.
Just as important and able to have like this huge impact.
Absolutely. And I think, this story, it reminds us that love between a father and a child, it's powerful stuff. It can heal, it can inspire.
Oh, yeah.
And it can really shape who we become.
And that those little expressions of it, those little moments, they matter.
Yeah.
Even if they seem small at the time, don't take them for granted.
So, as we start to kind of wrap up here, this deep dive, I want to ask something, Think about this, listeners. What are those unspoken legacies that you carry? What lessons have you learned from your father, your mother, whoever it is? And how are you carrying those forward?
Yeah, that's a good one. Because it's true. Whether we realize it or not, we're all carrying something, aren't we?
Yeah.
Those experiences, those relationships, they become part of us.
It's funny when you think about what the story really says, it goes way beyond just this father and son, right? I mean, it makes you think about like the power of that kind of love, that it can like echo through generations.
It really does.
It makes you wonder, like, how often are those small moments, those little acts of love, those are the things that matter most,
Yeah.
I mean, we think about like the big gestures, right? When we think
Yeah.
about sacrifice and all that, but maybe it's the everyday stuff, that just being there for someone, putting them first. Maybe that's what really changes things.
I think so. It reminds me of that quote, what is it? It's the best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. And that's this whole story right there. This father's love. You can't touch it, but it's huge.
It really is. And it makes you think, like, even when we lose people, we can still carry that, right? That love, those lessons. It's about weaving it into our own lives.
Absolutely. Taking those little seeds,
Yeah.
The ones that were planted by the people who loved us and letting them grow.
That's a great way to put it. It's like that ripple effect. You throw a pebble in the water, the ripples, they go out forever. We might not see it, but one act of kindness, one word of encouragement, I don't know, it can change things.
Yeah, it really can.
That's powerful.
And we can all do it. We can all be that for someone, that little bit of light, know.
That's a good place to leave it, I think. Be that light. So as we wrap up, listeners, just one last thought from me. What small act of love are you going to put out into the world today? What little seed are you going to plant? And until next time, keep diving deep.